Hey, Keisha. All right, we got a couple more minutes. So I'm gonna wait a few more minutes before we start. I'm glad you guys can make it this time. So I'm live on Facebook and Instagram, so I have to try to do better today with looking at both cameras. So who's gonna chime in today? Any one of you guys gonna chime in conversation? We'll see. Everybody gets scared. I mean, I can't say everybody gets scared because we've had really some great feedback and discussion in the last few talks. So I'm actually looking forward to it today. And more people have started to participate. So it's actually been pretty dope. Give it a few more minutes. So today we're going to talk about growing pains. Growing pains in a relationship. So hang tight, y'all. We're going to get started here in a minute. So I'm just going over my notes from my conversations. All right, got a few more minutes. Hope you guys can stay. It's not usually long. It normally runs about 30 minutes, give or take. So it really just depends on how many people we really have engaged in the conversation and the topic today. But today should be interesting because, again, we're talking about growing pains in a relationship. Basically, how do you determine who is worthy of going through the journey that you would like to go through in your life and in love? So, what's up, Remedy? Vivian. So today should be interesting. Definitely hope that you guys chime in, get some feedback, keep the discussion going. This is merely just topics of conversation. This is not rules or laws or by any means just my opinion, but just stuff that I've talked about with other people, things that I've heard. And a lot of what I do, I try to give unbiased opinions basically on both sides. And that's something that I practice very heavily on. So I never weigh on one side more than another. And if you've engaged in any of the talks that I've had before, you know that I'm basically fair game. And I hope that we can be 100% transparent with everything that we talk about and open and honest, because a lot of things that we discuss, other people are feeling it, or other people have gone through, other people have dealt with. And sometimes people are unsure of how to address it, or unsure if they are alone in the things that they go through or the things that they feel. So definitely hope to have, hey Monique, to get a lot of opinions and perspectives involved. So it's been good. It's been a good running. So I'm glad to do these talks and have a lot of the participation that we have. So for those of you who just chimed in, we're going to go ahead and get started here in a minute now. It's about to be 8 o'clock. Today's topic is growing pains in relationships, and who and how do you determine who is worthy of going through that journey with you, the journey of a relationship and the journey of love. Because it has painful moments. I believe it has painful moments, and our relationship had painful. Sorry, y'all, I was getting a call. So really with that, how do we handle it? And what do we do? And how do we know? How do we know that the person that we're with is the person that we want to go through this journey with? And we only know that based on the things that we feel we are willing to deal with, accept, and to help each other go through. So having said that, we're going to start off by saying, I'll start off by saying everyone has baggage. Like when I say baggage, I mean everyone has things that they have been traumatized with or that weigh heavy on them when going into a relationship. And those things we have to know and learn about the person that we're with in order to then know and understand how to help not only them get through it, but each other get through it. Because those growing pains are inevitable when you have trauma and baggage from previous experiences. It's almost inevitable. And when you notice those things and you pay attention to those things and you accept and understand those things, those are the things that are going to help you determine whether you are willing to go through this journey with this person. And so it's important to have all of that stuff out on the table and to be very transparent when it comes to things like that, because then you will never know if you are truly ready to take that journey with that person. It's part of who they are and their story and vice versa. You're absolutely right. Everything that we go through in our previous relationships or lives, if you want to call it, are definitely part of why we are who we are. And we have to accept that. We have to accept all of those things, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And those getting through those things and growing through those things can oftentimes be painful if not dealt and handled the right way. And it's not necessarily right or wrong way for everyone. You just have to figure out what's right for you in your relationship and what is right and what's going to make it easy for the two of you to get through and grow through those growing pains that are more than likely going to be inevitable. And in order to determine that, and in order to determine if the person you're with is worthy of the journey that you're willing to go down or the path that you're willing to walk down with them, you have to communicate. You have to communicate. You have to communicate. You have to be understanding. You have to be able to be willing and able to compromise. And you have to put forth effort. Without all of those things, you will get nowhere. You'll definitely get nowhere. So you first have to be able to put all of those things on the table. Open yourself up to all of those things. And only then will you be able to determine that. And that's why there are sometimes relationships that go on for years. And people sometimes say, oh, well, this person took too long, or this person got married too fast. But sometimes, again, every relationship is different. And there are some relationships that take a long time to get and open up all of these things. And without getting to these things, you really truly can't determine who is worthy of going the extra mile and going through that journey with you. So another thing with having said that is you have to ask yourself individually when you are in a relationship, if a person isn't where they need to be in life yet, right? Are you willing and able enough to love them and to be patient with them so as they grow, as they learn about themselves more, as they get to where they need to be, and vice versa? So, and I go, when I say you, I mean like everyone. There's no bias here, man, woman, whatever. Absolutely. I say it's important to be upfront about everything from the very beginning. It's only fair so that you can decide if it's something that you're willing to deal with. And that's a fact from a distance. And that's a fact. That's definitely a fact. Because again, without that communication, and without that, hey Danielle, without that open line and that transparency, you'll never know. And you'll never know if that person is worthy enough, because you'll never really truly get to know that person. And that's kind of almost unfair to both people if you're not able and willing to open yourself up and to be vulnerable to get to that point. So they need to come ready. Don't come half and want the whole. Yes, Lily, you're absolutely right. You can't give 50% of yourself and expect the other person to give you 100%. It's kind of I mean, relationships are work. They're definitely work. Like, we put in so much work at our jobs. We put in so much work trying to accomplish our goals. We put in so much work trying to be the person that we want to be. And a lot of times, and sometimes, and I wouldn't say all of the time, our relationships suffer and our relationships fail. And it's like, you can have all the money in the world. You can be as accomplished as you want to be. And you can have almost everything. But then something, if you don't have that balance, something is going to lack. And so many times and so often, we put so much effort into so many other things that we don't put that much effort or as much effort in our relationship, because we kind of feel as if our relationship should just be good. That's our peace of mind. That is our comfort zone. And yeah, it's our comfort zone until it's not. And how we bring that back is going to determine how things are and how things continue. Nobody's trying to build up somebody on top of a whole relationship. That's what Lily says. And Sean says she's right. That's double work, especially the older you get. I'm sorry, I'll let you speak. No. This is good. Keisha says, just like everything else, it's worth having. It's worth working for. And Danielle says, I'd rather put effort into my relationship over the job. Okay, so I'm going to touch on Lily's first. She says, no one's trying to build up someone on top of a whole relationship. So it's not necessarily building up the other person as it is, because we're on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm getting comments on both. I'm live on both, guys. So it's really, so going back to Lily's comment, it's really not so much building up someone on top of building the relationship. It's being patient with the person as they build themselves. So you have to understand where they are in order to be patient enough to accept those things, if that makes sense. And then Keisha says, just like everything else we have is worth having, it's worth working for. And that's a fact. Just as we can put an effort in our jobs and getting promoted, put in effort in buying a car, fixing our credit, making sure our bills are paid, living the life that we want to live, taking care of our children, as much effort as we put into everything else, we have to be able to put that much effort into our relationships. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's really not. And a lot of times it may seem as if one person is trying harder than another. Men and women mature at different rates, and that is true. But not only men and women mature at different rates, but through different experiences and through different circumstances, people mature differently as well. So keep that in mind. You load up. So we're gonna talk about when you have a situation in a relationship that causes you to have to. Some people have never had a real relationship either. Yeah, I mean, I can neither confirm or deny the type of relationship or relationship someone has had prior to entering the relationship that another person is in, because you have life experiences that can determine the type of trauma or baggage they bring into a relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be an actual relationship. It could be a relationship with a friend. It could be a relationship with a family member. Because there are certain things and certain instances that happen in your life that when you, I think we spoke about this the last chat, when you have triggers and you have buttons that get pushed because of instances that have happened before, and it makes you feel a certain way and reminds you of a certain emotion, feeling, or memory that you've had. That's trauma. That is baggage. And just like in a relationship or a friendship or something happens in your family, any type of circumstance, situation, or environment can trigger things in your relationship that causes you to react. And a lot of times in relationships, we don't know how, or we are not disciplined enough or patient enough to be reflective instead of reactive. And those are the things that causes a lot of pain in relationships, that further pain that you then have to grow through. And a lot of that can sometimes be avoided with some understanding and with some patience. And don't know what it consists of. Yeah. So now that I've mentioned that, so talking about those trigger points, how can I say this? When you're in a relationship and you have issues or built up, right? And you don't really necessarily know how to address it, or you don't necessarily know how to resolve it, and you just keep going, it ends up building up. And a lot of times when things like that build up, you start reverting back to when this happened, or when that happened, or when you did this, or when you did that, or when you said this, or when you said that. And then that build up continues, and it continues, and it continues. So instead of being able to grow through those things, you have to first be able to resolve them, deal with the situation that's at hand. So that way there's no reason to revert back, because all that's going to do is cause someone to be defensive, very defensive. And depending on how reactive you are rather than reflective, you will never understand why you're so defensive. So to help mitigate the defense mechanism, why is mentioning those past things a bad thing? Well, I guess my point is you won't have to mention those bad things if you initially deal with whatever situation you deal with right and resolve it. I won't say right then and there, because it's not a right then and there thing. It's more or less resolving it to ensure that it won't happen again. So the next time something comes up, it doesn't have to be brought up again. Sometimes the person needs a reminder of the things that they have done to bring them back to where you are and need to be now. Yes and no. I can agree. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that myself. Absolutely guilty of doing it. So I cannot say that is a right or a wrong thing to do, but I know we do it. We all do it. You know, men, women, children, we all do it. It depends on the context in which you mention them. That is true, Keisha. It does depend on the context in which you mention those things. So if you are bringing it up as to throw in the face type of thing, then it's definitely going to be cause more conflict and cause more pain. So that comes with something I heard in church the other day called relational systems. Sometimes you just have to remember to show more compassion than pride. It's hard though, especially when you've been hurt before. That pride is what you use to price yourself. So this is what I was just talking about, and I was just going into relational systems and what a relational system is. And I just heard this from a pastor the other day when I was in Bedside Baptist the other day on Sunday. It's that relational system is basically what causes us to react to a person. And again, that goes back to being reactive instead of reflective. And when we're more reactive than we are reflective, we react based on the things that we feel. And those things that we feel come from the things that we have experienced in the past. And whether it's in the current relationship or the past relationship. So how we react and respond to people is what that relational system is. It's the system and the defense mechanism that we use and that we take and we use to respond and react to the thing and that action that someone has done or said. And those actions trigger biases, and those biases come from past experience, like I mentioned, and it makes you draw a conclusion in your head. So let me explain that further. For example, if someone does something that makes them feel or think of something that has happened in the past. So if someone does something to you, right, and it reminds you, and we spoke about this in the last chat, and it reminds you of a feeling that you've had before, whether it's something that someone has done to you or something that you have seen or heard done to someone else, and it made you feel some type of way, right? That action, that trigger, that soft spot, like we spoke about the other day, is what's going to cause a bias in your mind that's going to cause you to draw a conclusion of that person and of that situation. So if someone does something that triggers something that you feel, you draw a conclusion. You say, you know what, this feeling that I'm about to feel or this feeling that I'm feeling based on what they said or what they did to me, I don't like it. So I don't trust it. I don't trust it because of what I felt before. And that right there is what enables us to grow and build in what your current situation is, because you're stuck back in where you were. So you have to then be comfortable within yourself. You have to then, it is a familiar feeling, but you have to be a little bit more in control, be more reflective than reactive in order to understand that whatever was triggered was not necessarily intentional. It wasn't necessarily done deliberately to cause you further pain. You feel that pain because of the trauma and the baggage that you brought into the relationship that you're currently in. So it is important to be, and I keep saying this, reflective instead of reactive. Okay? Be reflective instead of reactive, because so often we get defensive and we blame the other person, when if we truly think about it, it's not necessarily that person's fault that we feel the way that we feel. It's because of the things that we have gone through. It's because of the things that we have dealt with or traumatized by. Absolutely, because if you take it all to heart, you'll never move forward. And that's absolutely right, Keisha. That's absolutely right. You'll never move forward. And those are the things that continuously causes pain and continuously causes you to have to grow through those pain. And as you grow through the pains that you're facing in your relationship, if you don't deal with them and address them in a certain manner that's going to be conducive to your relationship, you're only going to add to that pain. And you're going to add to the fact that you have to grow through something else and then grow through something else. And that's going to start becoming a domino effect or a downhill battle. And we're another episode, or another talk, I should say, that we're going to have is going to be about love and what love is, and in what we deem appropriate to deal with while you're in love, I guess you could say, or love someone. So that's something entirely different. That's a whole nother level. You know, there's levels to this, right? But where was I? Being reflective instead of reactive. Now, one thing that can help you understand that when you get triggered by some of these things that are said or done that cause you to be reactive rather than allow you to be reflective, is think about, put yourself in that other person's shoes. Put yourself in the person that you're in a relationship with shoes, and ask yourself what they could be possibly meaning. Not what you think that they mean. And this is hard. this is definitely hard, and not everyone has the ability to do that because some people, again, are so reactive. They don't give themselves time to reflect. And again, that's a self-control thing. Woo child. So if you can allow yourself, you will allow yourself to understand if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, as opposed to putting yourself in that memory of whatever was triggered. Hey sis. That's my sister, y'all, like real life sister, like biological sister. In case y'all didn't know, I do have a little sister. Leave her be. I warn y'all. But so another important thing about putting yourself in the other person's shoes is you have to also trust that in your relationship, sometimes when you're reactive and not reflective, it doesn't really allow you to understand. And when you react, you're not understanding. And when you're not understanding, sometimes you just try to agree to disagree. I do it a lot, right? But what you don't want to do, and Danielle, this goes back to what you mentioned earlier. What you don't want to do is dismiss it, brush it under the rug, allow it to go unresolved, because then it allows you to bring it back up, right? And a lot of times we kind of just brush things under the rug because we just don't want to deal with it anymore. But those are the things, and those are the things that allow that room for bringing it back up again, or saying it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. And when you say that, that's, when you brush something off to say it's not that big of a deal, it hinders effective communication. It definitely does hinder effective communication. When you decide to say that something is not that big of a deal, you're minimizing that other person's feelings. You are basically saying that I don't want to understand, and I don't really care what you're truly feeling, because to the other person that you're saying it's not that big of a deal to, it could very well be a very big deal. And it could be a very big deal because of what they're feeling, because of the trauma that they have endured, because of the emotion and the feeling that they still have attached onto something that has happened. So again, it is so important, and I can't say this enough, to be reflective and not reactive. Because you don't want to minimize that person's feelings when they're trying to communicate with you the only way they may know how, but you're just not being understanding. You're adding a pebble to the pile, and eventually it'll be a mountain. And that's why people react. And that's why people get defensive, because it adds up. You have that buildup, like we mentioned earlier in the beginning. It's very disrespectful to minimize somebody's pain, because just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that they don't feel it. And who are you to judge if something is a big deal to someone or not? You know what I mean? You're not the judge, the executioner, or the jury of someone's feelings. So you want to be mindful of that. And again, try to understand. And when you're in a relationship, the most important thing you should want to do is try to understand. Another big thing, another growing pain that happens time and time again. Don't rush an apology. And Bedside Baptist was talking about this on Sunday. You don't want to rush an apology before understanding, which is why it's so important to understand. Because if you're just going to be like, all right, well, I'm sorry, just to hush someone up, you're just adding more fuel to the fire, and you're never going to get anywhere. Got to get in tune with those love languages. Yes, that's an awesome book, and you have to know and learn your person's love language. because those love languages make a very big, and we're gonna talk about love in another episode, and another talk. Is actually one of my next topics coming up. But you don't want to rush an apology before understanding what it is you're apologizing for and what that person is going through, because just saying I'm sorry for something and you're not really knowing what you're saying sorry for, or you're saying sorry that you feel some type of way because of something that I said or did, is not understanding. And yes, Nicole, resentment does come into play. Resentment comes into play when someone cannot be understanding, when someone is not willing and able to apologize, or have empathy with what it is that you're feeling and how or why you're feeling that way. And when you don't come to the bottom of that, back to Danielle, what Danielle was saying earlier, when you don't have that understanding and it just carries on, those are the things that causes someone to then revert back. Well, remember when you did da-da-da-da-da-da? Well, this is what I felt, and it's because you did this. You want to try to not do that. You definitely want to try to do that. But before apologizing, you want to understand, because then, I know I've done it. I'm going to ask you, if I just feel like you're saying sorry just to shut me up, I'm going to be like, well, what are you sorry for? What are you sorry for? And if you're unable to really articulate and explain what it is you're apologizing for, then that just tells me that you're unable to understand what that person is feeling. Apologies that lack sincerity become mere words after so long. Exactly. And then what happens is, the next time someone says sorry, they're not going to believe that you're genuinely sorry. And I'm pretty sure that we can all understand and agree with that. So again, don't rush an apology before understanding. So that's another thing. You want to be specific. You want to be specific when explaining why you're apologizing, and you want to be specific and reassure that person that you understand what it is that they're facing. And with that same face. Never say that you'll do something again. You never want to say that. And it's one of those things where when people are like, oh, well, I promise I'll never do this again, or I promise I'll never do that again. You never want to say that. You never want to say, oh, well, I'm not going to do this, or I promise I won't do that. Because in reality, it can very well happen again. So rather than saying that you'll never do something again, rather than saying that you promise not to do something, you want to make an amendment. You want to let the person know that you're willing to try to not do something again that will trigger that pain or that feeling or that trauma, or that, you know what I mean? You just, it's unrealistic to say that you'll never do something, or to promise something, or that you won't do something, because you never truly know. And then what happens is you have something else again that you're going to have to grow through, more growing pains, because what if it does happen again, right? Then now you have added more disappointment to that person, not only to that person, but then to yourself and in your relationship. And then then trust starts to alter. And now we're getting deeper into the rabbit hole now, because then when the person feels like, okay, well, you broke a promise, or you said that you would never do something and you did it, but then you did it. You following? And so now they're hurt, and now they can't trust that the next time you say you won't do something, that you won't necessarily do it. So rather than saying that you'll never do something, rather than saying that you promise not to do something again, or that you'll never hurt them, or you'll never do it, just say, I will try. Make an amendment with that person to say, I understand what happened, and I'm going to do and try in the best way that I can to ensure that this happens. And never say never. Keisha, you're absolutely right. So you never want to overpromise or underdeliver, because again, a promise is a comfort to a fool. That is a true statement, Nicole. True statement indeed. I need to write that down as one for the books. I've heard that before though. I feel like it's a saying. Is it a Jamaican saying? I don't even know. It sounds like something my mother said. true that. Yes. Yes, indeed. Um, Now, when deciding on the person that you sincerely, now that we've gotten through all of those things, when you truly figure out who is worthy of this love journey and who is not, it's totally up to you. And it's up to you to figure that out based on all of the things that we have talked about, all the things that you learn about a person, all of the things that you're willing to sacrifice for a person, all the things you're willing to grow through with a person makes that determining factor. And so many people wonder why they haven't been asked to marry them, or why they're dealing with A, B, C, or D. And it's not so much that, how can I say this? It's ultimately your choice. Like, it's your choice. If you're the growing pains that you're growing through, it is your choice. And you make that choice based on what you are willing to do, to sacrifice, and the efforts that you're willing to put in. Because you can't say that everyone is worthy with going through that journey with you, right? Because everyone isn't. You're not going to wife someone that is not wife material, right? You're not going to marry a man that ain't husband material. You choose to deal with what you want to deal with. You absolutely do choose, Lily. You choose to deal with what you want to deal with. And that choice is yours. And the choice is yours. And it's for you to decide the things that you're going to deal with in your relationship. So if someone doesn't have the mentality that you want them to have, or have the husband or wife mentality, and you choose to marry them, that's a choice that you made. What if they trick you and send their representative? Ooh. Danielle. So the representative topic. People always say, my question is, why continue to deal with someone if you don't see a future with them? That's a fact. You also have to ensure you're where you need to be before getting into a relationship. Yes, Keisha, you're absolutely right. But oftentimes we get into relationships and we're still growing. So yes, it's ideal to know who you are. Definitely growing pains on that. Definitely growing pains on that one, Danielle. It's definitely important to know where you are, where you want to be, and who you are before you can actually go into a relationship. Verbal communication, real. Yes, definitely. Before going into a relationship, because it's going to be harder to know and learn another person when you're still learning yourself. And it's going to be challenging because as you're learning someone else, you're still learning yourself. But those are also growing pains that are also inevitable in a relationship, because as you go through a relationship, things change, you change, and circumstances change. And circumstances can cause people to change. So you knowing who you are is ideal, but who you are sometimes changes as you get older, as you go through things and experience things. Like if she and he are not wife and husband material, don't waste no time. That's true. That's a fact, Lily. It's absolutely a fact. Because what you're not going to do, or actually some people do, there's some men that marry women that are not wife material, but in hopes that they can be. There are men that have wife material women, but then choose to not marry them because they're not ready, because they still have that boyfriend mentality and that boyfriend mindset. But then that's also what a woman deals with from a man. Women are in relationships with men that still have that boyfriend mentality, that are not husband material or have the husband mentality. And it's kind of again goes back to knowing who you are and being at that point in your life where you know who you are, you know what you want. Not everyone has that. Sent a request to be in my video. All right, Nunu, we bringing you in. What you're doing is getting the person in their feelings and putting them on hold. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right. Nunu asked to come in. I just added him in. I don't know where it went. Always meet someone representative in the beginning because they're showing you everything that's good about them. Takes having a disagreement to really see who people are. I would disagree with that. I think that people try to put on their very best impression of themselves when they first meet someone. Nunu, where'd you go? I was trying to bring you in. But I wouldn't say we all enter situations with certain standards from day one. So like Lily said, why waste time if they don't meet the prerequisites? I mean, yeah, I get it. I do. And Dante's up here talking about you always meet someone's representative in the beginning because they're showing you everything that's good about them, and it takes having a disagreement to really see who people are. Yes and no. I wouldn't say that everyone brings a representative first to a relationship. If you have to do that, then that means you truly cannot be yourself. And if you truly cannot be yourself and you have to pretend to be someone else, then you don't know who you are yet. And if you don't know who you are yet, that's something that's going to take time, and that's going to cause some other growing pains. And then until they got you, and then they show you who they really are, people get comfortable. That's what it is. And that's exactly what it is, Lily. So what happens is people that bring in these representatives, they eventually get complacent. They get comfortable. They get very relaxed. And like with everything else and everyone else, just like someone starting a new job. Someone starting a new job is going to be on their best P's and Q's until they get comfortable. Then they're going to relax. And then they're going to really show them true selves. Same thing in a relationship. So people that have to bring someone else to the beginning of their relationship, those people end up having to be comfortable and relaxed eventually. I mean, some people can hold up that front for a really long time. Some people can't. But that is an unfortunate circumstance that is inevitable to show itself and reveal itself. And once that happens, depending on where you are in your relationship, you can either choose to leave or you can choose to stay with that person and figure that out. So yeah, that's definitely a fact. But it doesn't take necessarily a disagreement to really see who someone is, because you can actually start seeing signs of who they really are in the midst of their comfortability. But yeah, so that was yeah, we call those captains. Yeah, for sure. What else? I think that's it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Keisha says, end up with doggone Jekyll and Hyde. Believe someone the first time they show you who they really are. And it's funny, Keisha, you say that because Lily says that all the time. The sad truth is that you never really know who you're dealing with. People, you see it all the time when people say, I've never seen the side of him or her. That's true. Can you please never wear that shirt again? I'm sorry, just because you're a Steelers fan, HCTR. Some of it could be learned behavior that comes out later. That's true. That's also true, Nicole. Nicole says that sometimes it can be learned behavior. So both are right. Both of you are right. Definitely. It's definitely a statement that I've heard and that I have gone through myself when people show you parts of them that you've never seen before. And again, it could be learned behavior that has come out. It could be, again, things that they have gone through, baggage that they have had, or trauma that they have dealt with that then comes out in certain circumstances. Again, when they are reactive instead of reflective, and when they have those trigger points like we mentioned, and something comes up, and it makes you think back to those circumstances. A lot of times some people can show who they truly are in those circumstances as well. You got to cut the snake off at the head. They show you once, let it go before you catch feelings. That's true, Lily. But then one can argue, what happens when you're in too deep? That goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Are you willing? What did I say earlier? If a person, you have to ask yourself, if a person isn't where they need to be in life, do you love them enough to be patient with them? And that goes to, if a person shows you who they truly are you patient with them in hoping that what they show you is not their true form? Or do you take that as their true form and check up them deuces? Oh no, we just got deep right there. We just got real deep. Anybody else? I don't know. Somebody asked to join in, and then I tried to join them in, and they disappeared. Nunu, where'd you go? Did you like hide after saying that you wanted to join in? But anyway, y'all, I think I got everybody's comments. You better have a good friend that will drag you on out, because the people that are closest to you will see it first. Those are facts, Lily. Those are definitely facts, because the people that you're around, they know you. And you can never truly hide what it is you're going through and what it is you're feeling with those people. And they are the ones that will grab you out, whether they're your boys or whether they're your girls. They'll be like, nah, bruh, this not right. Let's go. So definitely agree with that, Lily. Boom. That's right, Nicole. So, and they can see those changes. They definitely can. They can see those changes really quick, because things do change. Things definitely change, and they may be subtle at first, but then they may become a little bit more drastic than others. But anyway, y'all, wrapping it up. Great talk today. Definitely appreciate. No, you're good, Lily. I definitely appreciate you. Definitely appreciate everyone's participation today. Things have definitely been rolling a lot smoother and a little bit more in-depth. Good talk, Chief. Donuts. Talk, tank full of mats. Smoke talks, real life. Yes, definitely real life. Definitely enjoy having these talks with you guys. I definitely enjoy the transparency and the communication and the input and feedback with everyone, because again, a lot of people are not able to talk about things like things like this. Look, I'm getting parched. I think I'm hungry too. A lot of people don't know or understand that they're not the only ones going through similar circumstances as well, similar things. So definitely appreciate all the feedback. Definitely appreciate all the participation. Can't wait till the next talk. Look out for it. Love y'all. Never too late to check up deuces. You're right, Nicole. Deuces.